Hello, welcome back to another video. I hope you're doing really well. Today I thought it'd be a good time to do a big Q&A catch up, a girl chat. Nothing, absolutely nothing is off limits. I put a Q&A box a couple of days ago on my Instagram and I haven't even had a proper look yet, so God knows what is actually in there. I thought we could grab a Starbucks. There's actually a new autumnal menu. I do quite like a pumpkin spice latte, although I am really not ready for summer to end and just don't really feel like pumpkin spice weather. It's cold today, but it's still really sunny and I'm quite warm in my car. I might test out a few. I've been quite liking the Starbucks cold brew recently, so I'll see if they've got like an autumnal vibe. I don't think I've actually been to the Starbucks before. This was the closest one to me. The order thinks we've got pumpkin spice frappuccino, iced pumpkin spice latte. Oh, I don't really know. Hi, please could I get the pumpkin cream cold brew and then an iced pumpkin spice latte, please? And could I go for the clotted cream fudge cold brew?
Anything else for you?
That's everything, thank you. Oh my gosh, clotted cream. That sounds divine. Hi.
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Cream cold brew. Right, perfect. Thank you, have a nice day. Okay, so we've got pumpkin cream cold brew. They look really nice. This one's got, I think this is the clotted cream. I've never ever had that in a coffee. Oh my God, I never knew. I always felt like it was the US that had more of like an extensive Starbucks menu. Like I never knew all these existed. So this has got cream on top. And then I've just got the plain pumpkin spiced latte. So that's semi-skimmed milk, 2 single espressos. There is no way I'm going to be able to drink all of these 3 drinks. And it's a bit of an awkward one, isn't it? Because I can't offer someone like my half-drunk drink, but I don't want to waste it at the same time. This, it tastes like a plain latte with like a little bit of sweetness, but I think they've been a bit stingy, you know, with the actual pumpkin. I can't taste it that much. I would give that 6 out of 10. Pumpkin cream cold brew. I feel like this is going to be the real winner. That's really nice. It tastes like a stronger coffee and then you just get like a little hint of the cream on top. I'm not sure what that dusting is on there. I don't know if it's a bit of cinnamon. This is a nice combo. I prefer this to the latte. The latte just tastes like any latte. This would definitely be a strong contender. Pumpkin cream cold brew. It just tastes like a little bit sweeter than the other ones, but nothing to scream home about. Like, I don't think I'd return. Maybe I should have got a hot one actually, I think, because they're all cold, but it's just super sunny right now. First one, why did you not buy a new built house? So I've always wanted to do a renovation from as long as I can remember. I feel like I don't think I would ever buy a new built house. I would love to maybe build one from scratch in the future, but I've always loved the idea of having an old house. I really love the old character of certain buildings, you know, like the old beams, and I love English old traditional kind of houses and just other features like the sliding sash windows. And I've always wanted to do like a renovation, like a barn conversion, probably since I was younger. Like I used to always want to live in a barn conversion, so it's just been something I sort of visualized and wanted to do. And I just love how much more space you can kind of get in an older house. Like new build houses tend to be super small rooms. Obviously they can be gorgeous from the outside, but any new build house that I've been in the past few years, I always think, God, they're much smaller than older houses, should we say. How long are your weighted gym sessions? So they vary between 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes if on a leg day I have a little bit more time and I want to take more rest in between my sets, so say if I'm going super heavy, like I'm doing heavy hip thrust, there can be like an hour and 10 minutes, but I try not go over that just because then it just ends up me being in the gym for absolutely hours. And I always think when you overdo it, like even when you're really enjoying your session, try and leave your sessions on like a wet paintbrush. You've enjoyed your session, you've had a good session, you've not absolutely demolished yourself to the point where you're dreading that next session. Because what I think I've found in the past is, say with my leg days, I'd get really carried away. I could be in there for like an hour and a half. I'll be absolutely depleted and be driving home like a shell of myself. And then when I've got that next leg day coming up, I'm thinking, oh my God, I need to muster up all this energy to do like an hour and a half session, which was just a little bit unrealistic. And then I'd find myself procrastinating more. So I try and keep my sessions between 45 minutes to an hour and try and be off my phone and just intentional as anything in those actual sessions. Any tips for when you've hit a plateau with your training, feel like I'm not getting anywhere? Yes, this is really, really normal. And there's so many ways that you can get out of this plateau and make changes. The first step I would really recommend doing is just getting getting honest with yourself and actually asking yourself that question, like, have you been pushing yourself in your sessions? Are you getting to the end of, say, your 4 sets of 10 reps of an exercise and you're actually finding those last 3 reps difficult, or are you getting to the end of the 10 reps feeling like, oh, that was like okay, not overly challenging? So that's the first thing. And just saying, like, if you want to see changes in your body, in your strength, in how you feel on a day-to-day, you're going to have to get uncomfortable. So that requires having a structured program where you're having the accountability, so making sure you know what weight you're lifting, like week in, week out, and making sure you're either progressively overloading with the weight, with your rep ranges, so not just doing 4 sets of 10 reps of every single exercise, like making sure they're different for different body parts. And say if you're doing lighter accessory work, you've got more rep range, or you're adding things like eccentric holds to the end of your reps, so you're just getting that time under tension for certain moves and really making sure you're targeting what it is that you're working. Another reason other than the workout side of things is you could be under eating, which might mean that throughout the day you'll kind of pick at foods, won't really have like a proper meal, thinking that, say if you want to achieve fat loss, you'll think, right, I'm going to trim my eating or like my calories back. I've been there years ago. This is something I also see a lot with clients, and basically by the end of the day you're starving, you get home and you're just like ravenous, you feel like, oh, I've barely eaten today, so go to the fridge, just grab anything and everything, and then you end up overeating because you've basically starved yourself the whole day. Whereas if you'd have had 3 to 4 balanced meals and a nice balanced snack, your energy levels are more maintained throughout the day and more stable, and you're not going to be on this roller coaster with just spikes and overeating and be in this sort of cycle that's really difficult to get out of. So that could be another reason. And as well, if you're not balancing out your meal, it's going to be much harder to maintain lean muscle mass and also gain lean muscle mass. So definitely have a look and just being honest with yourself, just writing down on pen and paper like what has been sort of happening over the past few weeks. What's your diet been like? What's your training been like? Have you been training with intensity and intention? And I think that's the first step to getting out of a plateau, and then making a plan for the next week where you know exactly what you're training each day. You're going in with some strategy rather than just throwing stuff at a wall and expecting it to stick. What's your way of staying well organised? So this is something I'm constantly working on, and I do find it very hard. I feel like me and organisation and time management has been something I am constantly having to keep check on myself, and just making sure I'm basically prioritising. Like, that's what is the key to any organisation, is make sure you're not just doing the sort of fluffy stuff that doesn't really amount much to the bigger goals, but just prioritising those things that make the most difference and having a separate list. So what I'll do is I've got Time Stripe, which is a digital planner, so you can plan out your year, your week, your month, your days, and then you can also do like time schedule on there. I mainly use it for my week plan, and then I'll write my daily to-do list, and it's got like this tick feature that is so satisfying. And then I also have my plain notepad with my top priorities, so these will be 3 or 4 big things that I write down that'll be in my Time Stripe as well. So I've basically got 2 planners on the go, one for my phone and then one written, and then I'll have my little to-do list, like tick list sort of stuff, that things aren't that a massive priority, but if I have extra time that I can sort of just do in the evening, or like when I'm done with the main things. And that has helped so much. I did try go completely digital with my sort of organisation side of things, but I don't know what it is. There's some magic in writing pen to paper. I just feel like I achieve more when I've written something down. It must just go into like a different compartment of your brain basically. So that is how I stay organised. I don't time block things necessarily. Like, I feel like a lot of my work is creative, and when I found like I've time blocked stuff, it's just not worked out that well, but it would be something I'd like to do in the future. But that's just what works for me right now, and I'm really enjoying that. Have you had a breast aug? So I actually had a breast augmentation in 2021, so it'll be 2 years ago now. Haven't really spoken about it on here. My main reason behind that was I don't ever want to be someone who influences someone else to go through surgery, and I feel like, I know people have boob jobs left, right and centre, like it's quite a common procedure, but I think when you're going under the knife for anything, no one really talks about the sort of mental side of that. When I actually woke up, changed something about my body, my first thought was like, wow, did I really want to change something so much that I put myself like under the knife and this, that and the other. So I absolutely love my boobs, and they have been one of my favourite things that I've sort of done, but I just wanted to be careful how I speak about going through surgery, because I don't think people talk about sort of the mental side of that so much, but I would love to do a whole nother video on my experience, because I feel like my experience was quite different, and I've learned so much from going through surgery that I haven't really seen spoken about too much. Next is favourite sneakers for working out. So I've gone back to my Metcon 5s, which are the comfiest lifting shoe ever, and they're my absolute go-tos. Your feet can spread really nicely. They're super sturdy for your lifts, and I've got the white and crimson ones, which are really nice. Like, I think lifting shoes can be a little bit ugly, can't they, at times? So yeah, I really like those. How many countries and cities have you lived in? I feel like I've been like a traveller in a lot of ways. So I grew up in Yorkshire, and then I moved to London when I was 17, just about to turn 18. Then I moved back up to Manchester. I lived in Spain for a bit, in Marbella. My dad has got a house in Moraira, so that's in Alicante. So I spent a lot of time when I was growing up in Spain, and then I lived in Toronto for 2 months, in Canada. Where else? Dubai. But yeah, they're the main cities that I've lived in. So the next question is, have you had Botox or fillers? So I've never actually had Botox. I've had fillers, so I get my lips done once a year. Sometimes it depends how they last. Like, I actually notice if I'm training a lot, so doing a lot of running, I feel like my lips dissolve super quick. But I am really careful with how often and who I go to for my lips doing, because when I was younger, I just feel like I would go and get my lips done just by anyone, whatever was sort of the cheapest, and that is one of my biggest regrets. When it is your face and when you're going to people, you need to make sure they're professional, qualified, hygienic. So I've never had Botox. Like, I'm not opposed to it, but I've always been a little bit scared because I just don't want like a frozen face. But one thing, my ex stepmom, you know when you're younger, like certain things just stick out in your head. I just remember being on this dog walk with her. This is such a random story, but we'd gone on a dog walk. It was my stepmom and her friend, and they were talking about how aging, she doesn't really smile that much. I think maybe it was like Victoria Beckham vibes, you know, like Victoria Beckham didn't used to smile or something, or like women went through a phase or whatever, saying like, yeah, if you don't really move your face that much, you won't get wrinkles. And I remember walking behind them both, and I was like practicing how to not move my face, and I'm pretty sure it's down to that. Like, I don't use my forehead that much to make any expressions. Obviously I smile a lot, but my eyes smile, but my actual forehead doesn't move that much. I've been using my gua sha lately actually, and I feel like that's really helping with just keeping everything quite snatched. And I do get asked quite a lot about my face structure. I had such big chubby cheeks that I'm really grateful. I feel like I grew into, like, I used to get picked on and called Alvin the Chipmunk because my cheeks used to be like out here, and then I think I've just genetically got quite big here. My mum had the exact same, and my dad's even got quite high cheekbones. What exercise focused on shoulders, arms, please? So I love a shoulder press for shoulders, then bicep curls, things like pull-ups. So pull-ups target your biceps and also your back. I've recently been doing chin-ups, and I can't tell you, like, my biceps have never looked the way they do at the moment, and that is purely from doing chin-ups. So yeah, next is, it must be scary putting yourself out there. How do you deal with trolls / negativity? This is a hard one, and it's something that I've really had to work on, because there's been 2 stages in my life where I've been really affected by some negativity, and I probably took it way too sort of personally. Like, people who go out there and say negative comments, they don't know you personally, and they also don't know like your circumstances, and I always think what sort of place that person has got to be in to type something so awful. For me, for example, I know I would never do that, and it's not in my like nature, not in my mentality. There's no need, especially when you don't know that person. So I just always think they're obviously so unhappy in their life that they've got to comment and sort of project their worldviews and life views onto someone else, and so much of the time it's just so far just from any sort of truth. So having that mentality really helps, and reminding yourself like of that. But for me, I have had to really work on just making sure I'm confident in what I say. Like, if there's anything where I sort of feel more sensitive, it's obviously because there's something inside like my head that thinks there's an element of truth to that. So I always try and just keep that in mind, but also have an understanding that I'm putting myself out there. Not everyone's going to like me, and being okay with that as well, because if you're just constantly in this people pleaser mindset and worried that you're going to offend someone, you're not really going to be your authentic self, which is the most important thing, to be yourself. Like, we're not all going to get on with every single person that lives on the same road with us. We're not friends with everyone, and it's just the same on social media. So I think that mentality really helps. Next is low energy cures. I love this question because I was someone who used to have so many energy slumps throughout the day, or I'd feel the need to go for an extra coffee. I'd sometimes have 4 or 5 coffees in a day just to kind of feel somewhat alive. And basically that comes down to your nutrition. I think it really goes back to, are you balancing your plates out with protein, carbs and fats? That's what's going to keep you full and satisfied, and you're not going to have those energy slumps. Say if you're just having a load of carbs, you're most likely going to be on a bit of a roller coaster with your glucose and your sort of regulation, whereas having a mixture of healthy fats, carbs and protein is just going to stabilize and keep you a lot fuller and more balanced. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, how much are you actually sleeping? I would really try and get something that can measure your sleep, if it's like your Apple Watch, or just something where you work out like what time you're going to bed, what time you're waking up. If it's sort of under 6 hours, you need to be getting more sleep, and that's going to help you with your energy slumps throughout the day. Try and limit your caffeine past a certain time. So if it's after 2 p.m, I would really avoid or limit your caffeine intake, because caffeine can be in your system for up to 8 hours after that. So say if you're like getting ready for bed and it's 10 o'clock and you're still quite awake, it could be because you've had a coffee at say 2-3 o'clock that's still in your system. That's something that made a huge difference for me, for example, being able to get into bed a lot earlier and also get to sleep without sort of being like half awake. Like sometimes if I'd have a coffee too close to bed, I'd fall asleep, but I'd just kind of like wake up quite a lot and I'd in this like weird restless sleep, and that will help with your energy levels, definitely. Next is, do you think it's possible to body recomp without bulking and diet phases after 1 year of training? Yes, absolutely. So I would just say to do things really gradually. So if you're trying to put on some lean muscle mass, eat in a slight calorie surplus and make sure you're increasing your progressive overload, but you don't need to do it in like an excessive surplus, say, and that's one way that you can recomp your body in a like more gradual way. It's not going to be super drastic. And the same for if you're wanting to lose overall body fat, keep your protein intake high and reduce your overall calories ever so slightly, so like 10-15%, and just doing things in a more gradual way, but just having some form of structure and accountability is the key to achieving any fitness goal, whether it be fat loss, muscle gain, getting fitter. Having that accountability around that is going to really help you. Favourite meal ever, not even worrying about macros or calories in this question straight away. It's got to be chicken tikka masala. I had a curry actually over the weekend, and a peshwari naan and keema rice. That is like one of my go-tos if I eat out or like if I go for an Indian. Next is, are you missing Dubai? So if you'd have asked me last week, I was really missing Dubai last week. I think it was a super rainy day and I was just like, oh, I miss Dubai, I miss the weather, and I miss a lot of my friends actually that I made in Dubai. And yeah, there's a lot of things that I really miss at the moment. Like I love the UK and I love Dubai, and I just want to be able to sort of be between the two. But it is funny because when I was in Dubai, I was really missing things like a real British Sunday roast, and also like a muddy walk and just fresh air. So I'm just always conscious, like whenever I catch myself like, oh, I wish I was here or I wish I was there, just remind myself, be careful what you wish for and be in the present moment, because you're already living the version of you that you'd have dreamt of when you were younger, or you're living in an unanswered prayer without always knowing if that makes any sense at all. So I just try and keep myself as grounded as possible so that I'm not living in that sort of lack mentality or wishing I was elsewhere, because there's always so much to be grateful for. And whatever you're facing right now, whether it's something really difficult in your life, there's always lessons and there's always growth on the other side of whatever's difficult right now. Next is, what are your current calories? I have been really loosely tracking over this past few months, probably because I've tracked for so long. I kind of do have such an idea. I always, if I'm ever making a new recipe, I will always macro calculate that, just because I'm creating recipes for my app Live and Lift all the time, so I'll just take a note of that. And I do track calories when I'm trying to achieve a set goal. So I would probably say mine are between sort of 2,000 to 2,500 at the moment. It just depends. If I've done a long run, it'll be way more towards like 3,000 plus. If I've done like a 15k run, because you basically burn 1,000 calories on that run, if not more. But I've been injured over this past week with a foot injury, so I wasn't able to walk basically for about 5 days. Like I was just resting a lot. I did some upper body work, but that was about it. And I did notice, like, if I'm not as active, my appetite is just not quite as high as when I am doing like an intense session. Next is where are the recipes to your glow smoothies? They're in my app Live and Lift, my green glow smoothie, which is what I've been having every single day recently. Then time of the month routines. So depending on like my cycle phases, if I've just come on a period, I will generally do like a Pilates class or just like a lower intensity workout that day. If I'm just feeling super lethargic, just drop the weights, so nothing too strenuous or heavy. And especially I don't always feel like hip thrusting on the day like when I've just started my period, but it all kind of depends. I feel like my periods, I don't really get PMS too extreme, to be quite honest. So sometimes I won't even notice that I'm coming on, but other times I'll be like raging, hormonal, just crying sort of thing. Next one is how to work on my confidence. That's quite a broad one. So I would say with confidence, it's all about knowing who you are as a person and being accepting of who that person is, not trying to be like anyone else. And I think when it comes to, say you're trying to make friends or have a certain relationship, rather than people pleasing or saying if someone's like, oh, my favourite colour's blue, and you saying, oh, mine is too, you lose you in trying to please everyone else. It's like when you meet someone and they're just like, anything you say or do they sort of agree to, and it almost gets a little bit like you're thinking, it feels disingenuous, and people feel that. So I think really just spending more time like in your own company and getting comfortable with who you are as a person, because you come into this world on your own and you go out of this world on your own as well. So being comfortable with the person that you spend your most time with, which is yourself, and just honing into being, how can you be more authentic self? Like I think happiness and confidence comes from being accepting of who you are and owning who you are, and ways to be able to increase that confidence is firstly spending more time in your own company, testing things out. Like if you are worried about rejection or you're scared of what people will think, and you say if you express something that you're interested in and someone gives you like a funny response, like that person's just not for you. And there are so many other people who have got similar interests to you, and that's a good area I'd say to go down, rather than surrounding yourself with people who you actually don't really have anything in common with, but you're just pleasing because you want to appear a certain way or be a certain type of person. And physical ways to appear more confident is to, when you walk into a room, make sure you're not sort of like hunching over, like not making eye contact and you're coming over like this, but actually opening your chest, remembering to breathe, like breathe in for your nose, keeping your chin up rather than sort of down, and looking someone in the eye and being able to maintain a conversation. But yeah, I think that wraps up today's video nicely. I really hope you've enjoyed this one. If you do me one favour and hit this video with a like, I appreciate it so much. It helps and supports my channel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and let me know what you'd like to see in the next coming videos, and I will see you in the next one.